I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about reasons you should own your feelings. Okay, so owning your feelings is not easy to do.
It sounds easy, but it isn't always.
Yeah, and it's important to be able to do this to have a healthy connection with somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because you have to be able to open up to them and be vulnerable to them, and that's not easy to do a lot of the times. Especially if you grew up in a home where people were like, don't worry about it, don't think about it, just do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. Swallow whatever you felt and
Yeah.
don't bother us with it. Yeah.
So Margaret's got some good research that she wants to share today.
And I just want everybody to heave a sigh of relief. I have found another article by a Firestone. This is Lisa Firestone, the psychologist. And this is going to talk about a victim mentality, which is not something you'll hear me say very much because I think the term has been misused. But as usual, she does a very nice job with it. How blaming someone else for your feelings can sometimes get you into trouble. Key points. The stories we tell about our emotions make it seem like other people deserve the blame when we feel sad, angry, or hurt. But the truth is that we have control over our emotional reactions, or at least we're trying to get it. Digging deeper and acknowledging how our past might be influencing us can help us to choose healthier responses.
Okay.
There is a common pattern to the way many people tell stories about their emotions, particularly emotions that come up in relationships. It involves a passive perspective, a perpetual stance of being made to feel certain ways. She made me feel like I was invisible. He was trying to embarrass me. Her nagging is what made me so angry. His lack of support is the reason I'm so overwhelmed. Now, probably concepts we've all had at various times, right? Of course, it is completely normal for emotions to be sparked by interactions. We are, after all, human. Yet when a person consistently experiences a lack of ownership over their feelings and reactions, it can be problematic for several reasons. 1, it makes you feel powerless. A person can easily trigger a feeling in you. Their treatment or actions can serve as a catalyst for your emotional response. However, emotions you experience exist in you alone. No matter how another person behaves toward you, you can have control of your response. You may leave an interaction feeling hurt, angry, misunderstood, irritated, or ashamed, but these feelings belong to you. When you believe your feelings are entirely at the mercy of someone else, you lose a great deal of personal power. That is, in part, because both your interpretation of and reaction to your circumstances can have as much of an impact on how you feel as the situation itself. If you find yourself reading negative thoughts into what someone else said about you, or using something else they did to put yourself down and feel victimized, you are doing yourself, and in some cases the other person, a disservice. Of course, it's important to acknowledge and accept whatever feelings you have. You can't and should not try to turn them off or ignore whatever is triggered inside you. And there's the big one, okay? You can't and shouldn't try to turn them off or ignore whatever is triggered inside you. However, when you blame another person for your feelings, it is easy to lose touch with the things that are in your power.
Yeah, because it's like you're almost saying that somebody has this huge level of control over you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's not really like well, I'm feeling sad about this thing, but you made me sad.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it also shifts the focus from you to the partner.
Right.
And one thing that you'll see in couples therapy is that they'll encourage you to use I statements. I feel blank. And the other point that I wanted to make was, it reminds me of the distinction between saying I feel like and I think. Many times, just colloquially, the way we speak to each other, we might say, I feel like you don't care. No, you think they don't care. You feel uncared for, but the feeling is different from the thought, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's hard to own that.
Yeah, it is really hard to own
It's
that.
hard to take it from I feel sad, or and just own that thing. It's so much more difficult.
Yeah.
And so we kind of put it onto it by saying it differently. And one thing that I noticed a long time ago with like sports managers, you'll see that when they're getting interviewed after a game or a player, it's like they'll say you. They'll be like, well, you don't do this, blah, 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 when they're really saying, no, I don't really this, or I don't really.
Right.
Watch sports managers or players after a game, and they'll be like, a famous one for Joe Girardi of the Yankees was, it's not what you want. And he's known for saying that after games, but it's
not
really, it's not really not what you want, it's not what I want. It's not what I want. And it's just a silly little way, but you can see it come out all the time with players and sports and interviews. So watch closely when
Owning
they say
our own feelings is not all that easy. All right. Okay. Instead, you can ask yourself why you felt so stirred up. What messages were you telling yourself about the situation that could have made it feel worse? Were you relying on that person to make you feel a certain way? Are there things you could do to feel better? Do you like the way you acted or handled the situation? If not, how could you react differently in the future? Number 2, it generates a victim mindset. When your focus becomes too external, you may be looking to attribute responsibility to others rather than having a more curious attitude about your own reactions. Remember, curiosity is always a good thing. You want to be curious about your own reactions. This often leads to having a victim mindset rather than a growth mindset. In a victim mindset, you're likely to feel like you have little control over your circumstances. A growth mindset means you're open to learning and believe you can evolve, grow, and impact your life. A person in a victim mindset is often passive. For instance, complaining about their boss rather than focusing on a goal at work, or shutting out their significant other rather than communicating directly. A person's tendency to play the victim is something that they usually come by honestly, often based on circumstances from the past. Victimized feelings may have been appropriate to the situation we were in when we were young children, without power, helpless, and at the mercy of our parents. In discussing this, my father, the psychologist and author Robert Firestone, wrote, "Later, as an adult, things happen that are sometimes beyond your control and understanding. However, the adult who is still playing the child victim role just keeps noticing over and over again that the situation is unreasonable, unfair, or threatening, but doesn't make the appropriate adaptive responses." And having feelings like that can take you back into the past, and it's hard to know how to respond. So he's saying that if something reminds you of being helpless as a kid, it's going to be even worse. All right? Number 3, it stops us from digging deeper. Your biggest emotional reactions are often tied to your history. You may tend to feel especially hurt, insulted, and ashamed at being called something that resonates with you from long ago. For example, if you were called loud or treated as a burden as a child, having people act overwhelmed or annoyed by you as an adult may feel especially painful. If you were ignored or rejected as a child, your partner forgetting something you asked them to do might feel particularly cruel or hurtful. Okay, so does it echo with anything,
The things that really hurt you or you're sensitive about from your childhood.
Absolutely.
As an adult, when you hear those same things, you're going to be really sensitive to them.
So you need to be aware. When you only deal with these reactions in the present, you deny yourself the chance to know yourself better. What past events hurt you in your life? How do they get triggered in the present? So always be curious. Question everything. The old line from the 60s. Question everything. When you aren't curious about your emotions and instead shift blame, you fail to have empathy for yourself and what you may have gone through. Now that's an interesting thought, empathy for yourself. You may then continue a cycle of being triggered and falling victim to feelings you don't necessarily understand or that don't fully fit your adult situation. This can contribute to miscommunication, conflict, and a lack of understanding in your relationships. The point of stopping the blame game when it comes to your emotions is not about burying or denying what you feel. All your feelings are valid and acceptable. They are also worthy of exploration. When your exploration of your feelings ends with blaming another person for them, you stop short of getting to deeper core emotions that have a lot of meaning and influence in your life. For example, one person I spoke with recently talked about how she felt when her partner came home from a work trip exhausted. She described how he gave her a quick kiss and went straight to bed. At first it was easy for her to list all of the bad feelings he had caused her by his inconsiderate behavior. He hadn't asked how she was. He hadn't said that he missed her. He hadn't thanked her for taking care of the kids. All of this made her feel unloved and taken for granted. When I asked how she had felt anticipating his return that night, she eventually admitted to feeling embarrassed. She explained, somewhat reluctantly, that she had hoped to get a gift or an act of affection when her partner came home. As she spoke, she visibly winced at admitting what she wanted. When I asked her why she would feel embarrassed, she became very sad. She started to express deep feelings of shame and wanting anything. As the youngest in her family, she was often called whiny and demanding by her parents and siblings, and she learned to shut down rather than ask for what she wanted. After she felt sad and made this connection, the woman felt immense relief. She later called me to say how glad she was that she didn't act on her first impulse to ice her partner, because the following day he was waiting for her when she got home, having cooked dinner and telling her how much he'd missed her on his trip. She almost missed an opportunity for herself to explore the deeper ties of her reaction to her past and helped her understand something profound about herself. She could then have empathy for her partner's exhaustion from his trip and not take it personally. The point of not blaming others for your feelings is not about allowing anybody to be abusive to you or control you, just the opposite. Reclaiming your feelings as your own so you can feel strong in recognizing and exploring them. By approaching your emotions with curiosity, empathy, and acceptance, you can shift the focus from criticizing yourself or building a case against someone else to understand yourself and taking actions that are more in line with what you want, thereby recognizing you have power in your adult life.
Okay, so that's a lot to think about. But it is really important to explore your own feelings and observe how you feel based on what somebody's doing and not putting all that blame on them.
Right.
Because it gives them a little bit too much power over you if you let them, you did this, so now I'm really sad. Well, I mean, we're not trying to take accountability for the way somebody treats you. We're just trying to give you some power back by taking a look and seeing how you're responding. Are you sensitive to these areas? Are there things that are going on within you that are causing you to react in an unhealthy way because of your past?
And there's also a shift happening in the language and in the literature in the mental health field of using the term survivor instead of victim. And survivor gives you agency, that there is something that you can do, that there is change that can happen.
Right. That's right. And that's why I said you'll never hear me very often talk about a victim mentality, but I thought this article was kind of worth it. We're not encouraging a victim mentality. We're not blaming anyone for having one. And I think whenever a response that you make feels out of place, out of proportion, like, why did I react that strongly? Then it's time to get curious and say, why was I so upset? He was probably exhausted, and I was a little disappointed, but why did I get this upset? Then you can start reflecting on what it might remind you of. One of a therapist's best lines is, what does this remind you of, or when have you felt this way before? These are questions you can ask yourself. And when she got the answer, she felt 100 times better. And he came out looking real good. He cooked dinner the next night. All right?
All right.
So always pay attention to the firestones.
And Margaret.
Yes.
All right. Hopefully you enjoyed this information and liked Margaret's research. Let us know. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, go to my website, askcraig.net. Sign up for the coaching option that works best for you. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Margaret, of course, is available for Skype coaching.
If you feel that I can be helpful, please sign up.
And how could she not be? Okay. Just click on Margaret on the top of the website to do that. Coach Victoria will continue to be here training.
I'll be here.
And you'll be able to get a coaching with her in the future. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon. To get my help personally, go to askcraig.net and click on Schedule Coaching and choose the option that works best for you. I do email coaching or Skype. To schedule a coaching with Margaret, click on Margaret on the top of the page and order a Skype with her. For the Knowledge Creative Healing course, click on the link at the top of the page and click Get Started Now.